The battlefield silence. The jungle was quiet, too quiet. Smoke still rose from broken machines, black trails twisting into the night sky. The ground was littered with shattered weapons and burned trees. The war had passed through this place like a storm, and now only silence remained. A human soldier lay among the wreckage. His uniform was torn, his arm bleeding badly, and his leg would not move. He had crawled away from the battlefield hours ago, but there was nowhere left to run. His radio was broken, his squad was gone, and he was alone. He could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. Each breath was sharp, painful, and heavy. The jungle around him was full of whispers, strange insects buzzing, leaves rustling, creatures moving in the dark. But he had no strength left to fight. He thought this was the end. The soldier pressed his hand against his chest, closing his eyes. Maybe if he stayed still, death would be quiet. Maybe he could fade without being found by enemy patrols. He almost welcomed it. Then, a sound broke the silence. Not the growl of a predator, not the heavy boots of soldiers. Something softer. Small footsteps, careful, almost hesitant. The soldier's eyes opened, and he turned his head slowly toward the sound. Through the smoke, through the broken trees, he saw her. A small figure stepped into the clearing. She was no taller than 4 feet, her thin frame wrapped in torn cloth that might have once been part of a child's robe. Her skin was faintly luminous under the moonlight, pale with a faint glow that made her look otherworldly. Large, round, eyes blinked at him, eyes filled with both fear and curiosity. It was a little alien girl. The soldier's heart raced. Was she an enemy scout? Was she here to finish what the battle had started? He tried to lift his weapon, but his strength failed. The gun slipped from his grasp and fell into the dirt. The girl flinched at the sound, then froze. For a long moment, neither moved. The soldier breathed heavily, waiting for her to scream, to call others, to attack. But she did none of that. Instead, she stepped closer. Her small hands trembled as she looked down at him. She tilted her head as if trying to understand why this broken human lay before her. Her gaze moved to his wounds, to the blood soaking his leg. The soldier tried to speak, but his voice came out as a whisper. Go. Run. But she did not run. She crouched beside him. Her fingers hovered above his arm, then slowly reached out. She touched his hand, lightly at first, as if testing if he was real. Her skin was warm. Then, without warning, she took his hand firmly in both of hers. The soldier's eyes widened. He tried to pull away, but she held on tightly. Her grip was small, fragile, but steady. She refused to let go. Why? His mind swirled with confusion. She was not human. She was not his ally. And yet she looked at him with something he had not seen in this war for a long time: compassion. The soldier lay there, stunned. Her grip did not loosen. Minutes passed. The jungle seemed to grow darker, the sounds around them sharper. Somewhere in the distance, voices echoed, the harsh tones of enemy soldiers moving through the ruins. The soldier stiffened. If they found him, both he and this girl would die. He tried again, whispering urgently, Go, they'll kill you, leave me. But the alien girl shook her head. Her small fingers tightened around his hand. Her wide eyes, glowing faintly in the dark, seemed to say one clear thing. She was not going anywhere. The soldier felt something stir inside him. A spark. For the first time since the battle, he did not feel completely abandoned. He was still in danger, still bleeding, still close to death. But he was not alone. The girl glanced toward the sound of enemy patrols, then back at him. She pressed her free hand against her chest and whispered in her own language. Soft, musical sounds. He did not understand. But her tone was calm, almost protective. Then with surprising strength, she tugged at his arm. She wanted him to move. The soldier gritted his teeth. Pain flared through his body as he tried to push himself up. He stumbled, almost collapsing, but she did not let go. She pulled again, her tiny frame straining, desperate to drag him out of the open. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and realized something. This child, this alien girl, was saving him. Even when she could have left, even when holding his hand put her in danger, she refused to let go. The voices of enemy soldiers grew closer. The soldier forced himself to move, leaning on her, every step burning like fire. The jungle closed around them, branches scratching his arms, roots catching his feet. But the girl guided him, her glowing eyes watching the path, her hand gripping his as though her life depended on it. And in that moment, maybe it did, they disappeared into the shadows together, wounded man and small alien girl, bound by a single, fragile grip that neither of them would break. The battlefield had given him silence, but the silence had given him something else, a hand that refused to let go, the grip that saved him. The night was endless. The soldier leaned heavily on the small alien girl as she pulled him deeper into the jungle. His body shook with weakness, every step sending fire through his wounded leg. Yet somehow he moved, because she would not release his hand. Her grip was small but unbreakable, like iron wrapped in silk. Each time he stumbled, she tugged, refusing to let him sink into the mud. Each time he whispered that he could not. Go on. Her eyes flashed with quiet defiance as if she was telling him without words. You will not give up, because I will not let you. They reached a hidden clearing, shielded by fallen trees and vines. The girl guided him to a hollow space between the roots of a massive trunk. She pushed him gently down until he rested against the bark. His breath came out in sharp gasps, and his vision blurred. For a moment, the soldier thought she would finally leave. But instead she disappeared into the shadows. His heart pounded. Had she abandoned him after all? Was he foolish to trust a stranger, even a child? Then she returned. In her arms were pieces of fruit, strange alien pods glowing faintly in the dark, and a flask she must have scavenged from the battlefield. She set them down, then crawled close to him, forcing the fruit into his hand. The soldier stared at her, weakly shaking his head. No, you eat. But she pressed it back against him, her expression firm. He understood. She wanted him alive. He took a bite. The taste was strange, bitter at first, then sweet. But it filled his empty stomach with a small spark of strength. He chewed slowly, his eyes never leaving her. The girl sat cross-legged beside him, watching. Her small shoulders rose and fell as she breathed, but her hand never left his. Even when she looked around, scanning the jungle for threats, her fingers stayed locked in his. Hours passed like this. The soldier drifted in and out of shallow sleep. Each time he woke, her hand was still there. Once, when his body shook from fever, she pressed her forehead against his arm as if to anchor him to the world. Why? He did not know. He whispered, voice broken and low. Why are you doing this? She tilted her head. She could not understand his words, but her eyes answered, because you are mine now. The night grew colder. Mist crept between the trees, carrying the sound of distant movement. The soldier stiffened. Through the fog, he could hear the low voices of enemy patrols. They were close. Too close. The girl's grip tightened until her small knuckles went pale. She leaned against him, trembling, but she did not run. She did not even try. Instead, she pressed her finger to her lips, signaling silence. Her glowing eyes locked onto his, sharp and fearless despite her tiny frame. The voices grew louder. Boots crunched on wet leaves. Flashlights cut through the mist. The soldier's breath caught. If they found him, he could not fight. His weapon was gone, his strength broken, death was certain, but the girl, she refused to move. Her small body pressed against his side, shielding him as though her thin frame could somehow protect him from soldiers with guns. He wanted to push her away, to tell her to run while she could. But she clung to him, hand gripping his like a lifeline, eyes blazing with stubborn fire. The patrol passed, slowly. Their voices faded into the distance. The lights disappeared. The jungle swallowed them again. Only then did the girl breathe out, her body trembling with relief. But she still did not let go. The soldier felt something strange rise in his chest. Something heavier than gratitude. Something more powerful than survival. In a world of war and betrayal, in a night of silence and pain, a child from another world had chosen to stand beside him. She would not eat before him. She would not sleep before him. She would not leave him. Her small hand saved his life more than once that night, not by strength, but by refusing to let him fall into the darkness. And for the first time since the battle, the soldier wondered if maybe, just maybe, he would live to see another dawn. The jungle hunt. The jungle woke with the dawn. Strange cries echoed in the trees, long and haunting. Mist still clung to the ground, curling around the roots and broken metal left from the battle. The soldier stirred where he sat against the tree trunk. His body ached and his wounds burned, but he was still alive. And when he looked down, he saw why. The little alien girl was curled against his side, her head resting lightly on his arm. Her hand was still locked in his. Even in sleep, she refused to let go. He watched her for a moment. She looked fragile, too small for this cruel world, too innocent for war. Yet she had carried him, fed him, and faced death by his side. She had done what grown men had not. But morning brought no safety. Leaves rustled. Low growls came from the underbrush. The soldier tensed, reaching instinctively for his sidearm, only to remember it was gone, lost in the chaos of battle. His heart beat faster. Predators were near. The girl stirred, her large, glowing eyes snapping open. She listened. Her grip on his hand tightened again. Without a word, she pulled him to his feet, guiding him away from the hollow. The forest grew darker as they moved. Towering trees blocked the sun, their branches heavy with moss. Strange plants glowed faintly in the shadows, giving off a pale blue light. The soldier leaned on her, every step sharp with pain, but she never faltered. Then the growls came again, closer this time. From the bushes emerged a beast unlike anything he had seen before. Its body was long and lean, covered in thick scales. 6 legs carried it across the ground with terrifying speed. Its head was low, its mouth lined with rows of needle-sharp teeth. The girl froze. The creature hissed, its glowing eyes fixing on them. The soldier's pulse roared in his ears. He had no weapon, no strength left for battle. He pulled the girl behind him anyway, his instincts refusing to let her be the one to die. The beast lunged. With what little strength remained, the soldier grabbed a fallen branch. He swung it hard, striking the beast's snout. The wood cracked on impact, barely slowing the creature. It reeled back, hissing in fury. The girl screamed, but not in fear. She scooped up rocks and hurled them at the monster, each throw desperate but brave. One stone struck its eye, making it howl. The soldier staggered forward, forcing himself between her and the predator. His leg buckled, but he refused to fall. He raised the branch again, blood pounding through his veins, ready to fight to the end. The beast circled, snarling. Then another cry came from the jungle. Different, sharper. The predator froze, its head lifted, ears twitching. After a tense moment, it hissed one last time before slinking back into the trees. The soldier collapsed, against a root, his chest heaving. He could hardly breathe, sweat dripping from his brow. The girl rushed to him, grabbing his hand, pressing it against her small chest as if to calm him. Her eyes shimmered with something like pride. She had fought too, just as fiercely as him. They sat there in silence, listening to the jungle settle again. But the danger was not over. As they tried to move forward, the soldier caught sight of something that froze his blood. Footprints. Large boots pressed into the mud, fresh and sharp. Not beasts this time, soldiers. Enemy scouts had passed through, recently, and they were not far. The girl saw them too. Her grip grew tight, her glowing eyes locking on him with urgency. She tugged at his hand, pulling him into the shadows of the thicker brush. She led him with surprising skill, weaving between roots and vines, stepping exactly where the mud would not hold their prints. The soldier realized then, she was more than just brave. She knew these jungles in a way no map or sensor could. But the danger grew closer. Voices carried through the trees, metallic clicks of rifles, the harsh laughter of enemy scouts hunting survivors. The soldier pressed himself low against the ground, his hand shaking. The girl crouched beside him, still holding his fingers tightly. Even when silence was life or death, she would not release him. The voices passed and then stopped. The soldier's heart hammered. The scouts were near, too near. The girl's eyes narrowed. She pressed her free hand to the ground as though listening through the earth itself. Then she tugged him in another direction, guiding him toward a hidden slope. They slid down into a ravine, landing hard in the mud. Above them, the enemy voices shouted, searching. Flashlights pierced the leaves, but they did not see. The soldier lay in the muck, breathing hard. The girl clung to his hand, her small body shaking with fear. But she still did not let go. For the first time, he felt something beyond survival. He felt trust. This tiny alien child, no taller than his chest, was his lifeline. She was leading him through a world that wanted them both dead. She was giving him strength he no longer thought he had. And as he looked at her, mud streaked on her glowing skin, eyes fierce, hand gripping his like steel. He understood. She wasn't just saving him. They were saving each other. Secrets of the Small One night fell again over the jungle. The soldier and the small alien girl found shelter in a shallow cave, hidden behind heavy vines. Inside it was damp and smelled of earth, but it was safe. Safe from beasts, safe from patrols, safe enough for a fire. The soldier sat with his back to the rock wall, his body heavy with exhaustion. His leg throbbed, his arm burned, but he was still alive. And always, her hand was locked in his. The girl crouched near the fire, arranging dry leaves and thin branches she had gathered. She struck 2 stones together, sparks flying. Soon a small flame flickered, chasing away the darkness. The soldier watched her, surprised. For someone so small, she moved with quiet skill, as if she had done this many times before. When the firelight filled the cave, he could see her better. Her skin was pale, with faint markings like silver lines running across her arms. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly gold in the light, reflecting everything like mirrors. She looked fragile, but there was strength hidden in the way she carried herself. The soldier finally spoke, his voice rough. "Who are you?" She tilted her head, not understanding the words. Still holding his hand, she tapped her own chest gently. Then she whispered a sound. Her name. It was soft, musical, almost like a song. The soldier repeated it clumsily. She smiled faintly, then pressed her small hand against his chest. She wanted his name too. He whispered it. She tried to copy, stumbling on the strange human sound, but her effort made him chuckle for the first time in days. They sat like that for a while, firelight warming their faces. Names exchanged, though, not fully understood. Then the soldier noticed something strange. The girl closed her eyes, pressing her free hand against the ground. Her breathing slowed. She stayed like that for several seconds, perfectly still, as if listening to something the soldier could not hear. When her eyes opened again, she looked at him urgently. She tugged his hand and pointed toward the jungle. "What?" he whispered. She tapped her chest again, then pointed to her head, then to the ground. She was trying to explain, but he could not understand. Still, something in her eyes made him believe. She had known where to hide from soldiers before. She had guided him through paths no scout would notice. Somehow she sensed things before they happened. Could it be possible? The soldier leaned back, his mind turning. Maybe this child was not just lucky. Maybe she had a gift, something her people never valued, but something that was keeping them alive now. Later, when the fire dimmed and the cave grew colder, the soldier tried to rest. His body demanded sleep, but his mind was restless. He remembered her small figure standing before predators, her tiny hand pulling him from death. Her strange ability to guide him through danger. Why would she help him? Why risk her life for a wounded human soldier she had just met? He turned his head slightly. She had fallen asleep beside him, her small frame curled against his arm, still holding his hand tightly even in dreams. He studied her face, her glowing, eyes closed now, her breathing steady. She looked so young, a child of war, left behind by her people, surviving in a world that wanted her gone. And yet, she had chosen him. The soldier felt something heavy stir in his chest. He had lost comrades, seen brothers fall, watched his unit shatter. He had been ready to die alone. But this girl had pulled him back, without words, without reason, only with her hand. His throat tightened. She wasn't just saving him. She needed him too. He whispered softly, "You're not alone anymore." Her fingers twitched in her sleep, holding him tighter as if she had heard. The night deepened. Outside the cave, distant howls echoed through the jungle. The soldier's eyes stayed open for a while, watching the fire fade to embers. His wounds still hurt, and the war outside had not ended. But in that hidden cave, something had changed. He no longer felt like a dying man waiting for the end. He felt like a guardian, and he would fight for her no matter what came next. And in the silence, a thought burned in his mind. This small alien girl, dismissed by her own kind, had more courage than entire armies. He did not know her secrets, fully. But he knew one thing: her strength was real, and her hand, that small, steady hand, would not let go. The enemy's net. The jungle air was thick with heat the next day. The soldier and the small alien girl moved slowly through the undergrowth, following narrow paths hidden beneath vines and broken roots. Each step was painful for him, but her grip never loosened. She pulled him forward as if her strength alone could carry them both. He trusted her now. Wherever she led, he followed, but even her gift could not keep them safe forever. As the sun lowered behind the canopy, the soldier noticed something strange. The jungle was too still. No insects, no bird calls, not even the distant roars of beasts. His instincts screamed danger. The girl froze too. Her glowing eyes darted from tree to tree. She tugged at his hand, urging him to move back. But it was too late. A sharp sound cracked through the air. Click. The soldier's blood went cold. He looked down. Thin metal wires glimmered faintly between the roots. A trap. Before he could pull away, nets burst upward with a violent snap. The soldier was yanked off his feet, tangled in thick cords that dug into his wounds. He cried out, struggling, but the net held him tight. The girl screamed, reaching for him, but more nets dropped from above. She was caught too, her small body lifted into the air, kicking and twisting helplessly. Her hand still clung to his, their fingers straining against the cords. Shadows moved, through the trees. Figures stepped into the clearing, enemy soldiers. Their armor was dented from battle, their rifles gleaming in the dim light. They laughed as they approached, their voices cruel. "Well, look what we have here," one of them sneered. "A broken human. And what is this? A child?" The soldier's teeth clenched. He thrashed against the net, ignoring the pain, but he could not break free. The alien girl growled low in her throat, surprising them. Her small hands clutched the cords, but she refused to let go of the soldier's fingers. Even trapped, even facing armed men, she clung to him with all her strength. The soldiers laughed again. Pathetic. Both of them. One soldier raised, his weapon pointing it at the girl. The soldier's heart pounded. No, not her. He would not let them harm her. Summoning the last of his strength, he twisted violently in the net. His arm slipped free enough to grab a shard of metal from the wreckage tangled with the cords. With a roar, he slashed downward, cutting through the rope. He fell hard to the ground, pain ripping through his body, but he ignored it. He pushed himself up, staggering, standing between the girl and the enemy soldiers. They raised their rifles, surprised at his sudden fight. The soldier spread his arms, shielding her with his broken body. His vision blurred, his leg trembled, but his will was unshakable. "Come on then," he growled, his voice ragged. "You'll go through me first." The girl's eyes shone fiercely from the net above. She reached out, still straining to touch his hand, as if her strength alone could protect him too. The enemy soldiers smirked, stepping forward. And then, something changed. The girl shut her eyes tightly, pressing her palm against the ropes. Her body glowed faintly, a soft golden light spreading from her skin. The ground trembled. The air seemed to shift. The soldiers paused, unease flashing across their faces. The soldier looked up at her in awe. What was she doing? The glow spread, wider, the cords around her snapping like brittle twigs. With a sudden burst, the net tore apart and she dropped into his arms. He caught her weakly, staggering back, but she was free. The enemy shouted in alarm. The girl clung to him again, her small hand gripping his like steel. Her eyes burned with determination, as if her hidden gift had awakened fully in that moment. She pointed toward the jungle, tugging him with all her strength. The soldier stumbled but followed. Gunfire erupted. Bullets tore through the leaves, shattering bark, kicking up dirt. They ran, half dragged, half carried by the girl's willpower, deeper into the forest. Behind them, the soldiers cursed and chased. The jungle thundered with pursuit. The soldier's chest burned. His body begged him to stop. But when he looked down at her, this tiny alien girl whose hand refused to let go, he found strength he didn't know he had. They crashed through vines, scrambled across rocks, slid into ravines. The girl's glow flickered faintly like a lantern in the dark, guiding them just out of reach of their hunters. Finally, after what felt like forever, the gunfire faded. The jungle swallowed the voices. Silence returned, broken only by the soldier's ragged breaths. He fell to his knees, clutching the girl close. She pressed her forehead against his chest, trembling but still holding his hand tight. They had escaped for now. But the soldier knew the truth. The enemy would not give up. They had seen the girl's power. They would hunt her. They would hunt them both. And he also knew something else. He would never let her face it alone. The rescue within. The soldier's chest heaved as he leaned against a tree, sweat and blood dripping down his face. His arms trembled from exhaustion. His wounds screamed with every breath, but he forced himself to stay upright. The small alien girl knelt beside him, clutching his hand tightly. Her eyes still glowed faintly from the strange power she had unleashed in the net. She looked fragile, drained, but her grip had not weakened. They had escaped the trap, but the soldier knew the enemy would regroup. They would come again. Angrier, faster, determined to capture the girl. He pressed his forehead against hers, whispering, "I won't let them take you." She didn't understand the words, but she understood the promise. Her small fingers squeezed his hand, sealing the vow. Suddenly, a sound split the jungle. The distant rumble of engines, the crackle of radio signals. The soldier's eyes widened. He recognized it. Human technology. His people. The girl looked up at him, confused. He pulled her close, whispering, "Rescue." But doubt clawed at him. Would his people see her as a savior or as a threat? Before he could think more, shapes broke through the trees. Human soldiers in heavy armor, rifles raised, moved swiftly through the jungle. A beacon had drawn them, one the girl had unknowingly released when her power flared. "Contact!" one shouted. "Survivor found!" The soldier staggered forward, nearly collapsing. His comrades rushed to him, catching his arms, supporting his weight. Relief flooded him, but fear stabbed deeper when he saw their eyes shift to the alien girl. "What is that?" one muttered. "A child. Alien." The girl clung tighter to his hand, hiding behind his torn uniform. Her glowing eyes darted nervously from face to face. She trembled like prey surrounded by hunters. The soldier shook his head violently. "She's with me. Don't touch her." His comrades exchanged glances. "She could be dangerous. Look at her. She's not human." "She saved me," the soldier rasped, his voice hard despite his weakness. "I'm alive because of her. No one lays a hand on her." The girl pressed her face against his arm, gripping his hand with desperate strength. The humans hesitated. Then one medic stepped forward, scanning the soldier's wounds. We need to get him back to base. He won't last another night. The soldier tried to walk, but his legs gave out. The medics lifted him onto a stretcher. The girl screamed, her voice sharp and full of fear. She clung to his hand, refusing to let the soldier separate them. "Get her off him," someone barked. "No," the soldier roared, his voice breaking but fierce. "She stays. She stays with me." The girl's grip was so tight her knuckles turned white. Even when the medics tried to pull her away gently, she fought like a cornered animal. Tears streamed down her glowing face, but she would not let go. Finally, one soldier muttered, "Fine, let her ride. But if she causes trouble, she won't," the soldier interrupted. His eyes blazed with a promise. "Because she's not leaving my side." And so, they carried him back through the jungle, the little alien girl perched beside him on the stretcher, still gripping his hand. Every jolt, every bump, she clung harder, as if afraid he would vanish if she loosened her hold. When they reached the outpost, the floodlights blinded her. Machines hummed, soldiers barked orders, and the smell of oil and steel filled the air. She had never seen such things, and she pressed even closer to him, overwhelmed. The medics laid him on a cot, working quickly to clean and seal his wounds. But when they tried to move her aside, she hissed, baring her small teeth, her hand still locked around his. The commander frowned. "Why is this thing even here? It could be an enemy weapon. Look at those eyes." "She saved me," the soldier whispered, his voice weak but unyielding. "If she dies, you might as well kill me too." The room fell silent. The girl pressed, her forehead against his hand, refusing to move. And then something happened that no one expected. As the soldier's breathing grew shallow, the girl placed her small, glowing palm against his chest. A warmth spread through him, soft and steady, like fire beneath the skin. His pain dulled, his heartbeat steadied, and his vision cleared. The medics froze. "What is she doing?" the soldier gasped, then laughed weakly. "Saving me again." When the glow faded, the girl slumped, exhausted, but her hand never slipped from his. She collapsed beside him on the cot, her head resting against his shoulder. The soldiers around them muttered, uncertain. Some looked with suspicion, others with awe, but none could deny what they had seen. The commander stepped closer, staring at the strange child. Finally he sighed. "Fine, she stays, but she's your responsibility." The soldier nodded, pulling her closer. She always was. The camp settled into uneasy silence. Outside, the jungle whispered with danger, the war still raging beyond. But inside that tent, a bond had been sealed. Not of blood, not of race, but of survival. The soldier closed his eyes, her small hand still gripping his, and whispered one truth to himself. He had been rescued, not just by his people, but by the alien girl who never let go. The hand that never let go. The camp was restless that night. Soldiers whispered about the alien girl, some with suspicion, others with curiosity. The war had made them cautious of anything not human, but none of them dared try to separate her from the soldier, not after what they had seen. Inside the tent, the soldier lay on the cot, his body wrapped in bandages. His strength was slowly returning, though the pain was still sharp. Beside him, curled against his arm, was the small alien girl. Her tiny hand was still locked in his, her breathing soft and steady. Every time he stirred, she clung tighter. Even in sleep, she feared he might vanish if she let go. The soldier watched her quietly. In her, he saw not an enemy, not a burden, but the reason he was alive. Her courage had carried him through the jungle, her strange gift had saved his life, and her hand had never once released him. By morning, the commander entered the tent. His face was stern. "You're stable now," he said. "We move at first light. Evacuation ships will take us off this front." The soldier nodded, then glanced down at the girl. The commander's eyes followed. He sighed. "And what of her?" The soldier's voice was firm even in his weakness. "She comes with me." The commander frowned. "You know what you're asking. She's not one of us." High command won't like it. She saved me when no one else could, the soldier replied, his tone like iron. If she stays here, she dies. With me, she lives, that's all that matters. The girl stirred, blinking her golden eyes open. She saw the commander, then immediately pressed closer to the soldier, clutching his hand as if to protect him. The soldier smiled faintly, brushing his thumb over her small knuckles. She's mine now, he whispered. The commander studied them for a long moment. Then quietly he said, Very well, but her fate is tied to yours. Don't forget that. When dawn came, the camp began to move. Soldiers loaded equipment, weapons, and wounded onto transports. The soldier limped forward with the girl at his side, her hand never leaving his. Other soldiers watched them pass, some with mistrust, others with silent respect. As they reached the landing zone, the jungle roared one last warning. Enemy forces struck from the shadows, desperate to reclaim what they had lost. Gunfire thundered, smoke filled the air, and the world became chaos once more. The soldier pulled the girl close, shielding her with his body as bullets ripped through the trees. Stay with me, he shouted. But she shook her head fiercely, her small hand pressed against the earth, her eyes glowing bright again. A wave of energy pulsed outward, shaking the ground. The enemy stumbled, their aim faltering. The humans seized the moment. They pushed forward, driving the attackers back. Explosions lit the sky as the last of the enemy fled into the jungle. When it was over, the camp cheered. But in the middle of it all, the soldier knelt, pulling the girl into his arms. She looked up at him, exhausted but smiling faintly. You're safe, he whispered. Her small voice answered in her own tongue, words he didn't understand. But the way she held his hand told him everything. As the evacuation ships rose into the sky, carrying them away from the battlefield, the soldier sat by the window with her at his side. She leaned against him, her head on his chest, her tiny fingers still gripping his hand tightly. For the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to breathe without fear. Around them, soldiers murmured. Some shook their heads. Others watched, with quiet awe. None could deny the bond they had seen. The soldier knew the galaxy might never understand. They might see her as a threat, as something strange to be studied or feared. But to him, she was none of those things. To him, she was the reason he still lived. And as he looked down at her small hand in his, he knew something deeper. She had given him more than survival. She had given him hope. The girl opened her eyes, staring up at him. In halting, broken human words she had practiced in whispers through the night, she said softly, Your hand is mine now. The soldier's throat tightened. He squeezed her fingers gently, smiling through the pain. Yes, he whispered. Forever. The ship roared into the sky, leaving the war-torn jungle behind. Two unlikely souls sat side by side, bound by a grip that neither time nor war nor fear could ever break. The battlefield had taken everything from him, comrades, strength, even hope. But in its silence it had given him something greater, a hand that never let go.